Hello and welcome to our virtual career expo featuring skilled technical trades. I'm Tina Chace, Director of Business Development with Lee Summit Economic Development Council. We're happy to facilitate this event in coordination with Herndon Career Center and Southland CAPS. So this hour focuses on careers in power and energy. We are joined here today by professionals from the energy sector. We have Katie Walbridge, a construction site manager for Evergy, and we have Jeremy Merz, was senior project manager with MC Power Company. So thank you both for joining us. Before we get started, for those of you who are attending the event here live, feel free to chime in through the Q&A feature to ask questions at any time. Alyssa's here to help ensure that we get all your questions asked. This event is intended to give you the information you need to better understand the benefits in choosing a career in the power and energy industry and the types of jobs associated with that field. Looks like we have John Lloyd with us also from Spire. So John, thanks for joining us. We're just going to kind of jump right in. Katie, I'm going to ask you the first question. Tell me a little bit about Evergy. So kind of what you do, who are your customers, what kind of territory do you cover? Just kind of a high level, if you will.
Yep. So Evergy is a vertically integrated company is a fancy way to say it, but that just means that we are able to have generation services, transmission services, and distribution services. We serve the eastern half of Kansas on the Kansas side, and on the Missouri side, we serve kind of the greater Kansas City area. If you've heard of Westar Energy or Kansas City Power and Light, we are the combination of those two. We merged about a couple years ago and had a name change within about the last year and a half. We have different facilities located all across our service territory from Wichita to Columbia, Missouri. I think I said that right. And yeah, so within the energy or within Evergy, like I said, we have generation. So those are going to be like your power plants. With that, we have natural gas, coal, solar, and I'm sure I'm forgetting one. And then we also employ linemen for our transmission and distribution services. And then with that, we have all of our office. I forgot solar. I have all of our office personnel and different functions there.
Very good. So John, same kind of question for you. Tell us a little bit about Spire.
Okay, well, first I want to tell them myself. So give me a little bit about the audience that's in the background now. It's high school kids, correct?
High school, yes, sir. Yep.
Okay, all right. So let me try and just kind of take this from the top to y'all, and good afternoon. I'm glad everybody could join us that's on the call today. So who is Spire Energy? You may have seen the trucks in the neighborhoods. We're white trucks with the big orange, almost looks like a S on there. But what we are is we're a natural gas company. So think about us as the folks that provide the energy to keep your house warm when it gets cold outside, keep your water warm to take that shower, hopefully in the morning, and you know, using that energy to really cook your food. You know, and really natural gas, it's beyond those things that I kind of mentioned there. Everything that they're wearing, the computer that you may be viewing this on was made with some form of energy. Natural gas is a big component of the manufacturing energy. So really just providing energy just for our day-to-day lives. In the grand scheme of things, let's kind of talk about natural gas real quick. So you have people who drill for natural gas, or there's renewable natural gas out of landfills that you're able to get the product from. So that's one piece of the business, at least the grand scheme of things. So, and then you have another piece of the business that people are really responsible for transporting this product across the United States. That's a transportation company. And then at the end of that life cycle, there's a distribution company. And that's what Spire is. So we're really responsible for picking up that product from the transmission lines and delivering it to your home safely and effectively. So just real high level, that's what Spire does. But that's at the core of our business. But for you all who've joined us today, you're probably wondering, well, what kind of jobs does that mean? What kind of things do you do there? What's the day-to-day look like? And so just like a lot of other companies out there, we have people who are engineers, we have people who are right-of-ways, who go out and stake jobs, who locate our facilities, who are responsible for developing corporate communications, who are just like any other company, just a whole host of things that you could be exposed to. So in a big nutshell, that's a little bit about Spire and a little bit about some of the opportunities that we have.
Thank you. I loved it. That helps me because, I've never worked in an energy industry either. And I'm like, I don't know the difference between you two, really, other than
where's it come from? Where's it, all of a sudden does it just appear? And there's so much more to it. And each piece of the business, just like Evergy, it's super important to keep your lights on, right? And that's what they do really well. And just like we do, we provide natural gas service. We do it really well. And a lot of people think, one question that always seems to be out there is, well, how come there's only one company? So just a little bit to know about the utility industry. We're highly regulated what we do with good reason, though. Some of the students or some of the people on here may have seen, hey, in Texas, they got a $15,000 electric bill. Well, that's because of market deregulation. So when you're a regulated company, we have to provide that service for the best rate possible and consistently. So obviously you don't want a whole bunch of people providing natural gas service who aren't really good at that. So a little bit on that.
I love it. I love it. All right, Jeremy, what about you? Tell me about MC Power.
Yeah, again, thanks for everybody today to be here. So MC Power, we are a full service, just a general electrical contractor, commercial electrical contractor. And then we are also what's called a solar EPC. So that's engineering, procurement, construction. So we do solar renewables. We design, oversee the design of anything from smaller residential side. We dabble in that a little bit, but most of our focus being in commercial and industrial, and then into like utility municipality size projects. But we do the engineering and design on that. And then we'll also handle all the purchasing and material procurement. And then we run those jobs too. That's where I kind of come in, but we oversee all the construction aspect of it as well. So.
Okay. So you also would have a lot of pretty diverse types of jobs in your company then.
Yeah. We'd have the full range. I mean, you've got everything from the people here in the office that handle the business side of it out to we do self-perform work too. So we've got field personnel, master electricians, journeyman electricians. We've got an O&M division, a gentleman that runs that and oversees projects after they're built, make sure they maintain service. Then, we work with engineering firms, and then also like me being a project manager, just all the other parts and pieces when you're building something. If I need to run subcontractors between our crews to, again, different subcontractors for various parts and pieces when you build one of these farms. So.
Yeah, so I think it's important for the students to understand, especially if you've watched multiple panels throughout the day or you plan to, is, as we've kind of hit on all of these different industries, you'll find some similarities, right? So that business piece is going to be the same and is the same in any kind of company. You're going to have your executives at the top. You're going to have your middle management, some supervisors, accounting, HR, marketing, business administration. And then where it gets a little different is depends on the type of business. So this industry, power and energy, is a lot like construction trades. So it seems everything is driven by a project. Is that fair to say? So, it could be one specific project for a client or a customer, or it could be something for a government entity, which could be multiple projects up under, let's say, for the city of Lee Summit or for something like that. So I think it's important to kind of reiterate that, but let's kind of dig into each one of your roles specifically. So Katie, what do you do inside your business? What's your job?
Awesome. So I am a supervisor of construction and maintenance, which means nothing, but I supervise a group of linemen. So the linemen that report to me are, I'm based out of Topeka, Kansas. The linemen that report to me are the first responders when your power goes out. So if there's an electrical emergency or your power's out, the guys that report to me are going to be the first ones on the scene. What their role is then they call back in and say, okay, crew, this is exactly what we need. We need, 3 poles, a transformer, all that jazz. So really my role in all of it is to just make sure that they have the tools that they need to do their job. My background, I am a civil engineer. I graduated from K-State in 2015. And so I am not the technical expert in this. And so my role in all of this is just to make sure that they have the tools and that they're able to perform their job safely. And then before I did this role, I worked in the substation engineering group. And so that was more of the project driven stuff that Tina was talking about. And we would get our projects for about 5 years. And with that, I did site design, foundation design, and permitting for that group. So that was more on the transmission side of things. Those are the big power lines that stretch across country. So now I'm working in the distribution side of things. Those are the power lines that are in your backyard that serve customers. So really our job changes day to day. When I go into work, I don't know what I'm going to have that day. My job is really based on trouble calls, is what we call them. So basically when people call in, we want to get their lights on. Our goal is usually within an hour or two. So that's my role at Evergy.
Awesome. Very good. So, John, tell me about your role.
Yeah. So just I guess I kind of start, a little bit, how did I get to Spire and how did all this happen? So been here, 12 years, a lot like the students on there. I wasn't sure really what I wanted to do. Right. So, I had applied at the fire department, applied at Evergy. So I might've been working for you one day, Katie, if you would have taken me there. Right? I always thought that lineman was a pretty cool job, and I applied at the gas company. So luckily enough, they took a shot on me. I was interested in the construction field, just working outside. So spent about 9 years just on the business end of a shovel, really coming up through the ditch and just learning the trade from the bottom up. So really great experience if you all have an interest in those type of things. And I did. So after that, though, after doing that for a decent amount of time, some other opportunities come up, went through the supervisor role, and now I'm the manager of construction here in the Kansas City area. So what does that basically mean? Really, there's 3 parts, again, to the gas company. So there's some folks that take care of those service calls, make sure the gas service is on and operating well at your household. Then there's folks kind of like Katie had mentioned that are like linemen, so to speak, but we're kind of part of the pipe fitters union. So they're really responsible for leak response. So anytime that there's a natural gas damage, they're going to go out there, they're going to address that and fix it safely. And really what I do is the planned large scale duration work within the city. So as your infrastructure ages, you would have to replace that. So we've got about 25 crews in the Kansas City area, and I'm sure that you maybe have driven through one of our construction sites where we're updating our aging infrastructure. Kind of a day in the life of that is really just providing support to the folks out there doing the work, looking at the engineering plans, making sure that everything can go as smoothly as possible. Doesn't always go that way. Making sure that we eliminate any barriers with the cities that we're working in. Our permitting's there, our training is there, and just really we're performing the work as safely as we can day in, day out. So, that's a little bit about me, I guess, so to speak, and a little bit about what I do specifically for the company.
Yeah, so it's not too different from what Katie does, maybe just on a different
product, really.
Yeah.
It's a different product, a different service that you're applying, but there's a lot of similarities there. And I guess one thing I would add to probably the students on the call today is what I like about the energy just sector in general is, it has a lot of purpose, right? So day-to-day life, we're responsible. Katie's people are going to be out there once the storms pass to make sure that power's on. People have to have the power. Just like the natural gas service, if it gets cold out and that's not operating right, guess what? You have a purpose and you got to get out there and finish the job till it's done. And for me, and maybe some people listening in, that's something that's attractive to you. And that's why I found myself in this, I guess, career field.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I appreciate you saying that, because one of the common things that I've heard today is just the passion that everybody has for maybe not just their specific job, but for their role that they play in their careers. And that I think students need to understand that when we're talking about these jobs, it's not just a job. Like, it's a career, and the people, this is your life. You're going to spend a lot of time at work. So you better hope there's a reason for something you like about it, right?
Yeah.
Something
Absolutely.
you get back from it. Yeah. So Jeremy, what about you? Tell us a little bit about your specific role.
Yeah, so senior project manager. Here, my role is pretty similar. It is something you'd find across probably a lot more construction industry, half of it with if for those who are familiar with that industry. But since I'm a senior project manager specifically here at my company, I've got some other project managers that work with me that I help oversee. But generally speaking, I focus more on the renewable half here at the company than just the, because since we have kind of our solar and renewables, and we've got our general commercial electric half, I do dabble in that or kind of cross over when needed. But I focus more on the solar projects, primarily on the larger jobs that require a little more project management experience. But everything from the front end of the job, and this can vary a little bit company by company, but here, the front end, meaning once the job's sold or even in the pre-construction or pre-development, I'll give input on design, kind of look at it from an operational standpoint, using my experience and, you know, hey, maybe we need to change this, or did you guys consider this, working with the engineering team. I also help with some of the sales guys putting together some production estimates and things like that for them. But once we get to a sold job, that's kind of where I'll usually take over. And then everything from that, the permitting, working with the AHJs, so authorities that have jurisdiction, i.e. a lot of times the cities, working with Evergy, we work with them a lot on interconnection agreements, things like that, contracting, all that front end paperwork. And then through the job, if, you know, hiring any subcontractors, overseeing that, working with my field staff, making sure they've got what they need, that schedules are maintained, budgets are being met, and then also helping address if there's any secondary needs of the customer, things like that. And then really a lot of it is just keeping an eye on that, and then the day-to-day problem solving. You know, there's always something that comes up that, you know, we're driving piers out in a solar farm, we hit rock. You know, what do we do to address that? Getting in contact with the manufacturers and going through that. And then just the closeout half, same thing, making sure final inspections with the city's done, getting back with Evergy, you know, or whichever utility it may be, getting meter swaps, making sure they have their inspection, the paperwork they need. So really just seeing that project kind of through from start to finish. Sometimes I might pick up at a little bit different spot. And then, you know, when it closes out, if it's something we're ready, then I can hand it off to my own end manager and make sure he has what he needs. So just real high level of every part of the project. I'd say I'm not being a specific, I'm not a master electrician, but understanding enough about the parts and pieces so I can ask the right questions and get those specific people the answers they need when they need them.
Yeah, that's a lot. But people don't realize that, so you being a project manager, you're kind of responsible, if you will, that everything falls into place, right?
I'm kind of like the conductor of the orchestra. I may not know how to play every instrument, but I work to bring it all together and make sure the timing, the different areas start when they need to start, kind of like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I see, we did get a question in the chat. I'm going to go ahead and ask it. And then let's see, it says, how hard is it to find a job in power and energy? And what should I prep for before looking for these jobs? Katie, you wanted to go for that?
Yeah, I can. So there's varying jobs across kind of our business that different ones need different skill levels. So specifically for alignment, there's line school. There's a couple located in Kansas. There's one in Pratt, Kansas, one in Manhattan, Kansas. And really to get in with Evergy, you need to have been, you know, in a line school or an apprenticeship through one of the contractors. That's kind of the standard base at this point. As far as just getting into the utility industry, that's not necessarily a skilled profession. Like I said, I'm a civil engineer. I did dirt and concrete, and that's what I went to college for. So to come into the, you know, electric utility industry, that was not what I imagined was going to be my life. But what I would say is just to keep your, you know, keep an open mind. I found Evergy at a career fair at K-State, and I applied for an internship, and they took a chance on me. And I think it's worked out well for both of us, I hope. But anyways, I definitely went the college route, but there's definitely some entry-level positions if you can get your foot in the door, that you can definitely work on and build your skill level. Yeah, and if you want to go the college route, there's obviously options for that too. So
Yeah.
did that answer
John,
your guys' question?
yeah. John, do you want to answer that too?
Yeah, I mean, I think Katie did a really good job of answering, you know, a lot of that, because just like you said, depending on what role you're going to go into, right? You know, so if it's an engineering position, you know, you're obviously going to go the college route and follow that path. But as far as construction, entry level construction, you know, I'm not going to say there's really a lot of barriers to that. It's competitive in the sense that lots of people apply for these positions to get in at the ground level. You know, is it great to have some construction experience? Sure, that's fantastic. But really, in all reality, you know, attitude, mechanical ability, the want to be there, those are the things that really make the difference of somebody getting their foot in the door or not. So, you know, if we hire 10 people, we may have 1,000 applications. So don't ever get discouraged if it's not that first time that you come through and it wasn't to work out. But when you do get the chance, I mean, you're just looking for things that you've done that really just show you have that desire to learn, that you're willing to do all things and want to be there more than anything. So
Right.
Nothing real detailed there, but you got to try if that's something you want.
Yeah. So did you say that you kind of worked your way up?
Yes.
Yeah. So you didn't necessarily go to college to do what you're doing now. You just utilized all of your experience to move up, and that got you there, right?
And that's fine. And, you know, I think one thing I probably need to clarify here is that when we say move up, I took a different role because all the jobs here are important. And being a really good field personnel for your entire career is just as important as being some type of manager or anything else, if that's what you desire to do. So I would just encourage people, go do what you want to do and do it the best you can do it, because all the roles at our company, to me, are just as important as one another.
Gotcha. Now, Jeremy, did you go to college, and were you thinking, were you always pretty laser focused on being in this energy field or industry?
Well, actually, yeah. So yes, I did go to college. I went to Pitt State University down in Pittsburgh, Kansas, went through their construction management program. So I got my bachelor's. I also have a master's as well that I got there. Originally, I went to more of the construction route, and long story short, through some change of hands and ownership and things like that, the need came up for a project manager to help run solar projects. And, you know, it's been, 8 years or more ago. And when that change happened, and I thought, yeah, this sounds cool. You know, solar energy, new emerging technology, kind of where everything's going. I'll try that out. So I was able to apply my construction experience to that, which has been tremendously helpful. But yeah, I mean, for my specific position, normally if you saw it posted or something like that for an ad, they're going to ask for probably a minimum of 4-year college degree or bachelor's degree rather. And then usually like 5 years of experience or something like that for a higher level, maybe 10 years if you're going into a senior project manager position. But no, our O&M manager here, he's a great example. He started off as a master, or he's a field worker. He got his master electrician, worked in the field for several years, and then he, took on the role of operations and maintenance. So I think more in the electrical field, at least with our company being an electrical contractor, there's maybe a little more requirement on the, education side or the trade side. But I think that's a great point too, is even today, we're looking for experienced electricians. And I think anybody can agree, probably Katie and John both see this, having qualified individuals in those trade fields of, not everybody goes that 4-year college route. There's some great opportunities out there to be electricians and things like that, and going through those schools and then working your way up from there. So
100%.
Yeah, that's great. Great points. So we're having some questions come through. So we're just going to keep running with the questions that are coming here. This next question says, how stressful are your positions knowing that you are doing anything you can to serve the people?
I would say I think it's really rewarding, to be quite honest with you. More than anything, that sense of accomplishment whenever you had to do what you had to do to get things back online, right? So there's, you're going to have moments of stress in there, just like any job, right? But I always think that, at least for our fields, the energy field, that those are really rewarding more than anything. Whenever you dig down and you got to give it and you make that happen, it's just a great feeling. I mean, I'll definitely say that. It feels really good to do our job when you get put on the line, so to speak.
Yeah, probably one of the 100% stressful times is during storms. And I was telling Tina last Monday when the wind came through, we had kind of a little mini storm in Topeka. We didn't have a lot of people out, but there was a lot of different holes on the ground. So those are times when we can really rally together and get people going. And it's pretty amazing to see those numbers of customers drop quickly, and kind of cool that we can see, what our guys really, yeah, they do day-to-day stuff, but when those linemen, they're there for the storms. They're there to make sure that we can get the lights on as fast as we can. So that's probably 100% the most stressful part of my job, but also one of the most rewarding. So.
Yes. So Jeremy, I'm going to ask you this next question.
Yeah.
What kind of deadlines do you guys work with? Is there a lot of work on your own time, or are you just like an 8-hour day?
Well, let's say deadlines. You typically, we've actually been kind of lucky here, honestly, a little bit lately. Some of our jobs haven't been quite as tight. We have, when we do get in some of the larger utility scale jobs, those will get more tight. We've got timeframes for just based on how the structure of the contracts are written. So it does come up. It's really dependent on the size of the project. And then if there's any type of qualifiers or incentives tied to projects. So for instance, we've had projects with Evergy customers, and they may have a rebate or a timeline that in order to get that, you have to be completed in a certain amount of time. So that does come up. Usually there's plenty of a window there, but it does come up, and there have been times where we have got up against the deadline, and that's where it can get stressful. But as far as working in ourselves, I think you're just going to see across the industry, it depends by the company. It's probably a little more driven by the company. I know naturally, I think here in the United States, we're all pretty heavy workers compared to the rest of the world sometimes. I personally, I'm probably here 8 to 9 hours a day. If we start getting a lot of jobs stacked up, then I can be spending more time here, working a little bit later to make sure jobs are staying caught up and things are getting going. But our boss, we're lucky. He's a pretty good guy. He really tries to push us. Hey, get out of here, especially if it's on a Friday or something, or why are you here at 6 o'clock or something? You need to go home, and it'll be here tomorrow. So I think that's more company policy sometimes. And there are companies out here. I've worked with some colleagues that they've worked for companies in the field, and they kind of burn out and they can't do that. But I think it's a thing to be aware of too. Make sure you've got that good work-life balance. And if you've got a company that's not giving that to you, don't be afraid to ask or start looking elsewhere, because that's very important. So.
Yeah, that's so true. So true. So the next question we have is, how much do entry-level jobs start out in your companies? Do you guys kind of know? Maybe a range? This would be non-skilled, I would guess, entry level. Do you have non-skilled entry level, I guess? Is the question.
I looked at the lineman ones before I got on here just so I could check. So the lineman would be, kind of a skilled position. Like I said, you would have to go to line school. Line school is about a year. It's about a $20,000 commitment. But that's kind of the way to get your foot in the door. And then we also have a program, we call it the boot camp, and it's basically a week-long intensive of like, you're just climbing poles all day, and it's basically kind of a prove who's the best person in the pack kind of thing. There's definitely people who don't make it through, but that's a good judge of, what kind of worker they're going to be. For a lineman apprentice, it would be anywhere from about 50,000 to 80,000, depending on what level of apprenticeship you are. The apprenticeship is a 4-year program. And, as you get more skilled, your pay increases. And as you pass the tests, your pay increases. On the engineering side, project manager side, our entry level about $60,000. And that usually involves either some sort of 4-year degree or at least 3 to 5 years of experience. Entry level, as far as like not skilled and stuff, those jobs are kind of shifting as technology shifts and stuff. But I would still, depending on what job it is, it's still anywhere from like 20 to 25 an hour, probably, as far as dollars an hour. And there's always opportunity for overtimes in the hourly positions. So, we've definitely had apprentices that have gotten to the 6-figure ranges, even when they're at that $50,000 base. So,
wow. So would you say that's pretty similar?
Yeah, I would say it's, ballparkish similar as that too. So don't hold me to that though, folks.
Yeah, no.
Well, I mean, yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
There's a difference between skilled labor and,
Yeah.
people coming off the street, and there's usually a pre-qualifier for most positions. So,
Yeah.
Jeremy, what about at MC Power?
Yeah, it's similar on the entry level positions. Then as you get more experience from what I'm going to call the field side, that's going to go up. Obviously, project manager wise, you're probably, if you're entry level project manager, you're probably starting in that fresh out of college around that 50 mark. And then as you go up in experience, you can see anywhere from 90 to north of 100. Once you get a few years in, it also I would say in the private part here, the contracting, it varies too, depending on the size of the company and where you're at too. But for this area, that's a pretty fair range.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that this industry is somewhat competitive. Right? It's kind of hard because John, you even mentioned having an opening, you could get hundreds of applicants, right? Yep. And you're going to select maybe 5 or 10 of those. Mm-hmm. So even though you're getting really great pay at this entry level point, it's really competitive. So that might be also why the pay is a little higher as well. That kind of would make sense.
Yeah, I think one thing maybe the panel would agree on is what's really good about the field we're in is you can take money for everything, and there's probably jobs that do pay better, but one of the things I think we got going for us that maybe not as many other have is just the stability. So you keep that in mind whenever you're evaluating a career. Is it a place that's going to be around in the next X amount of years, right? So we have people that, on average stay here 30 years. And I'm sure the electric company and probably the project management side would hear me the same way, so stability is, money's great, don't get me wrong, but stability's equally as great too, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with that. that's something, there's so many things to think about. I think back as a student, I'm like, I wasn't thinking about any of these things.
Mhm.
Well, and you don't want to like pigeonhole yourself. That's what, like, I've had the ability, you know, like I said, didn't start out in the electrical world, but just make sure that you have like an open mind about what you want to do, because there's so many opportunities within companies that you really don't think about when you're starting. So just make sure you're exploring those while you can and while you have the ability to. So.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I really want to echo John's statements about the stability. Having a good company that you can work for with good ownership. Yeah, there's always a bigger paycheck out there, but there's a lot of intangibles that come with the stability and having good ownership that are much better than having a much bigger paycheck, if you catch where I'm saying. So that's one of those things that I've seen people leave and go other places because they chase that money, and then they're not happy because they're working. We asked about those hours. They're working 10 or 12 hours a day, or, you know, the deadlines and the pressure just, you know, wears you out. You burn out fast. So that's always something to keep in mind is, hey, maybe you can make a little bit more, but what cost are you actually giving up to get that? So.
Yeah, so that kind of leads me to a question about work-life balance. So clearly there, in some aspects of your job, you have no control over the fact that you've got to be all hands on deck, right? So how do you kind of work with that in that work-life balance scenario? Are you working a lot some weeks and maybe not others? And how do you kind of decompress, I guess?
Jeremy, you want that one?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is.
The project manager is probably better at answering.
Oh yeah, it is. There are times. I mean, there can be times you get, it's like you're kind of waiting. You know, I don't want to say you're on cruise control, if you will, but then all of a sudden you hit, hey, we just got this job, and this job, and then you're just all of a sudden you are in that mode, and you just have to. That's where good organizational skills really come into play, knowing what's priority and what maybe you can, I don't want to say put off, but what's secondary of importance to get you to that next step. And that comes with experience, part of it. You know, when you first start, you may think everything's a fire that's going to be put out, but it is. And then just being able to, once you get that job going, that's usually what I see a lot is you start up front, you got a much heavier workload. And then as the job does get moving, if you've done everything good up front, then you can kind of cruise through that second half of it. But, and it's just knowing when to say, hey, I gotta stop. I've been here too long. You know, I'm not doing any better. It'll be here tomorrow, kind of thing. So prioritizing and good organization, it really comes into play on that.
Being intentional with your time. So if you're at home with your family, be at home with your family.
Yep.
And when you're at work, get your work done. That way you can, you know, you're never going to have the perfect, and, you know, you can't say 25% of the time I'm doing this, 25. Just be intentional with where you are at the moment.
Great. So are there skill sets that, you know, in high school or that you use every day, right? So you see where I'm going with this, like as a high schooler, you know, there's certain things that you have to do that maybe you're not overly intentional about, but what kind of skill sets are you looking for when wanting to hire somebody, whether that's out of college or high school? What's important? I hear soft skills all the time. I'll throw that one out.
Yeah.
I think those are actually pretty legitimate. I mean, really, I think you've heard us all probably say it is, you're not going to know all the answers to every problem that we face in this industry. So you have to be able to collaborate with people. You have to be able to take different people's perspectives into account. You have to be able to listen to people and not just like not talk when they're talking. Like, I mean, when I say listen, I mean, like really listen to what somebody's saying. Maybe there's a solution there. And I mean, I know everybody throws those out, but honestly, those are super important more than anything in my opinion. You know, you don't have to, I hate to say this, but have a 4.0 GPA to be the best at something, you know, but you have to be willing to work with different people from different backgrounds and that can solve the problems at hand. You know, that's my 2 cents at least.
Yeah, I agree, John. And, you know, you kind of use your technical background and your technical skills to get your foot in the door, but the way to keep your job and the way to move forward is with the soft skills. those soft skills are gonna, you know, kind of give you more of those opportunities that you want to come. So.
Yeah. Jeremy, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I mean, that hit it. It's very true. Those soft skills, knowing when to rely on your technical background, that is important because you need to have some of that experience in that field you're working in. But yeah, just being able to work with people, communicate, and understanding how to find those resources and solve problems. You know, like John said, you don't always have all the answers, but I think that's the bigger thing that I see, especially working with my other project managers, is how do you know where you need to get to? You know, how do you use those tools and resources to get to that point before you would come to me or somebody else, and being able to show that you can do that. That's really big that I've found. That's also what's been successful for me. You know, I don't know every answer, but I'll sure do the work and the digging to find it. So yeah, very important.
Right.
So when I'm at career fairs, specifically looking at like resumes and stuff, when I'm looking for like some of those soft skills, I'm going to look for project teams that you were on, leadership opportunities you took. Basically, any time when you were able to work in a team environment and give me a good example of how that team succeeded and how, you know, some failures they had and how you came back from it. Those are good things to, you know, from day one when you are able to get involved in things, either in college or in high school. Look for those teamwork opportunities to give good examples on things.
That's a great point. So get involved, right? I know so many students who, you know, these days, especially with technology being as rampant, phones, video games, you know, they're sitting in their bedrooms and, oh, I'm being social, right? You know, and we're playing together. But how are you going to transfer that? You know, how does that work in the real world? So I think pushing students these days to really, you know, continue to be engaged in school activities is important as well, because that fosters that teamwork, whether it's sports or a club or whatever. You've got to be able to really be able to talk about that and your role in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. So this is a fun one. Since you kind of went there, what are some interview tips for students as they start to kind of think about it, whether this is right out of school or they're going to go to college? What's something you would give them? Tidbit.
You know, you might not like this answer either because it's kind of like the soft skill thing, right? But most important thing to me is just be you. You know, people try and be the perfect person in an interview. And when I see that, I typically am a little turned off by it. If you really want to know the truth, I mean, you got to just be you. You're looking for people that, hey, I've made a mistake. Hey, I'm willing to tell you that I'm not perfect, but here's what I did to come back from that mistake, or here's what I learned from that mistake. You know, looking for things that are concise and specific. Again, you know, did you provide a solution to whatever that problem was, and just being able to speak to those things, but more importantly, just being you and not feeling like you have to be perfect. So kind of following the sports, if you play real nervous, you tend to make a lot of mistakes, right? You're not going to give your best to interview. But if you're relaxed, you're just being you, and if that's where it's meant to go, that's where it's meant to go. You just typically you're going to interview a lot better from what I've seen out of people.
That's great. I like that. What about you, Jeremy? Oh, he's got himself on mute. Katie, you want to go? We'll follow with Jeremy.
Yeah. So, you know, I would just say, make sure I see people freeze up, and I've 100% frozen up in interviews too. Just make sure that you kind of have some good examples, like in the back of your mind. Just make sure, okay, when was the time I succeeded and why, you know, what was something good that came out of that? When was the time that I, you know, totally failed, and how did I jump back from that? Kind of know those are going to be interview questions that come. And so if you can kind of have some of those examples in your back pocket to pull out, like that way when they ask one of those questions that's worded just crazy, you can be like, all right, I'm going to step back. I'm going to talk about the time that, you know, we tried to solve this problem and it didn't work. So that would be one of my suggestions. And, you know, if you need to jot them down, because, you know, when you can look at it and refocus for a second, that can make or break an interview.
Yeah, great point. Jeremy, what about you?
Okay, sorry about that. Had someone pop in there. No, yeah, I think the biggest thing is just knowing, you know, again, echoing what's previously been said here, but just knowing what you kind of want out of it, and don't be afraid to show your strengths and weaknesses. Be upfront, and you know, have an idea of what you want to do. And I was going to add to this, just career wise, understand too, things change. You know, where you start off may not be where you end up. So don't be afraid. You know, look for something you enjoy and you love, but you know, just understand there's always going to be opportunities that come up, and you never know where you may end up at. So
Yeah. The other thing I would add is do your homework, right? So understand the company, Google them and see what's going on, right?
Yeah.
Use that phone for something so that you can at least speak to the business that you're interviewing for. And my dad used to always say, you know, look them straight in the eye and give a good handshake. You know, can never fail with that one. Yeah. Okay, so here's a good one. I kind of try to end on this one, but what do you wish you knew in high school versus now as a working adult? What's your best advice to give a student?
Can I start?
Yeah, go for it.
So I actually heard this from my boss a couple years ago, and it's one of those things that pops up in the back of my mind sometimes, but she said every day is an interview. And so just make sure that every day you're coming to, you know, be a better person. You're going to strive to do your best. And, you know, we all have our bad days, but as long as we can bounce back from that, I think that's a good example of, you know, what to strive for. Just remember every day is an interview.
That's a good point. Jeremy, what about you?
I'm going to say, honestly, I think just this is probably a little more general, not just specific to career wise, but there's a lot of life left after high school. So know that, understanding, it's important now, but there's a lot of other things that are going to be way more important later in life. And I think where I'm going with that is learning to what you should sweat through and be worried about, and what you shouldn't be. So being able to really understand those things and where the importance really does lie. And I think that will help you just in life in general and in your career. For those things we talked about, those stressful days that came up and all this, you know, once you know how to sort that and understand that, you're going to see a lot of things, I think, go a lot smoother and a lot easier. And then you can really know when, hey, this is an emergency, or this is something I really need to be paying attention to, or hey, it may seem big now, but it's really not that big of a fire after all. And I'm gonna get through this pretty easy. So I think that's just the knowing those what is really important and what is not, kind of thing, and how to get through that.
That's good advice.
Yeah, well said on that one. I'll piggyback that a little bit and just say, you know, it's 100% not where you start, it's 100% where you finish. So go out there and get started on just right, and whatever that something is, whether it be college, whether it be finding a career right out of high school, no matter what that is, be good at it. Go to work and try and be really good at it, because you're going to gain some type of experience from that. Some type of door is going to open up. So I think Jerry said it well. There's a lot of life after that. You don't have to be perfect right out of the gate. Thing is, just go on and take a step at it, you know, and try and be good at whatever it is you're doing.
Yeah, I would agree. I think being inquisitive is really important as a student or a younger person. And I was always kind of a little bit fearful or intimidated of adults, right? But I try to coach my kids that, you know, every person you meet has a totally different story, and their network is totally different than yours. you would be amazed at the amount of people that I meet now that that's how I know people. That's how I've gotten jobs, right? So your network and not being afraid to talk to that next person in line at the grocery store. You don't know, you probably know that person or know a mutual person, or you might need them later. So I often exchange business cards with people just to do it, because I just never know when I could need to call on somebody, or they may need to call on me. So networking is very important, I think. So I'm just going to leave with this one question. I really just want to know how students can really find out more information about your industry or your companies or potential jobs as they try to navigate this. Is there something that your companies do, or is there an association? Just a way for students to be able to kind of plug in when they're ready to get a job.
I think from some of the energy industry, I said that there's a bunch of people that apply, right? So sometimes we don't maybe do the best job of always being out there at times, right? So don't know if we have a ton of stuff like that, but we do career fairs. There's obviously the website, really places to kind of turn to, but that's honestly something we could probably improve on, to be quite honest with you.
Great.
Yeah, for Evergy, if you head out to evergy.com and click on the careers tab, there's careers posted every day. I think we have over 4,000 employees, so obviously there's going to be positions posted, and there's different levels of skill that needed for different positions, but that would probably be the place I would start. I will put a little plug in here for our internship program, and we hire interns in college and skilled labor interns. And so our internship program is fantastic. That's how I got started with the company. And those positions usually get posted in the October timeframe and then again in March. And those are going to be, there's specifically a tag on that careers just for interns. And last year, I think, even with the pandemic, we hired about 90 interns all across the territory. So that's kind of the entry level way to get within the company. And then obviously, you can always go out there and see what positions are available.
Great. Jeremy, how do students, or how would students get connected to MC Power?
Or just going through online presence as far as some of the social media, going to our website, looking on there, seeing careers, kind of that general thing. We probably need to be a little bit better about that too. We have done some internships in the past. We haven't done any here, didn't do any last year. I don't know that they're doing any this year. But I know industry wise, that is a very big thing, especially when I was coming up through college. Internships with companies and stuff were very big, but just the industry itself, as far as electrical, solar, renewables, whatever. There's also trade groups out there. Like solar has the SEIA, which is the Solar Energy Industry Association. If you just want to kind of get a finger on the pulse of what's happening, looking for whether any fields, looking for stuff like that, then there's plenty of publications out there that they target, magazines and stuff that target just those industries, whether it's renewables. I'm sure there's the same for that. Maybe John sees for Spire, or Katie sees maybe stuff that's more utility related on the electric side. But things like that, if you have an interest in it, start seeing what other publications are out there and maybe sign up. A lot of them give free newsletters, free email or digital subscriptions. So, start seeing that can help you too. Cause then those things, you never know, you'll see a company come up in there, or maybe a certain field. Hey, that I never thought about that sees that, or, that company looks like they do something great. I'm going to reach out to them. So those are always good ways too, to be industry wise as well.
Yeah, that's a great point. So do your homework, right?
Yes.
Research. Yeah. Yep. I think that's pretty key. Kids are on their phones all the time anyway. I tell my kids all the time, I'm like, you ask me a question, I'm like, hey, Google it, right? You've got the phone right in your hand. will be other opportunities for you three to be involved with the Lee Summit R7 School District moving forward. You know, we've created this huge initiative and trying to embed more opportunities for business to work with the teachers and students. So we hope that you will participate again in another way. Maybe it's another career fair, or maybe it's a class project, something like that. So thank you, all three of you, for joining us today and providing a lot of insight for these students. This is great. I really appreciate all your work.
Thank you for having us.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Thank
Glad to
you.
be here.
Yeah, you bet. Well, we'll see you next time then.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.